When my own daughter told me I wouldn't be welcome at the family Christmas, I just smiled. I picked up my phone, made a few calls, and by January they were already receiving collection notices. But that was just the beginning of my revenge. Justice needs to be restored, and arrogance needs to be punished. You won't believe what I did next. My name is Robert. I'm 58 years old, and for 5 years I financed my daughter Sarah's perfect life. New house, brand new car, private school for my grandchildren, trips to Disney. Everything came out of my pocket while she and her husband, Marcus, lived like royalty. I had been a widower for 7 years, since losing my beloved Helen, and my daughter was all I had left of family. Sarah was always clever. After her mother died, she knew exactly how to manipulate me. "Dad, you're the only one who can help us," she'd say, with that little smile that melted my heart. And I, like an idiot in love with my own daughter, would open my wallet every time. For 5 years, I paid their mortgage. $2,600 every month, automatically. When they wanted to renovate the kitchen because the old one didn't match their lifestyle, I shelled out $15,000. When Marcus lost his job and they ran out of money for a car, I financed a $40,000 SUV. I lived in a modest house, drove a 10-year-old pickup truck and bought clothes at Walmart. But them? They lived like millionaires with my money, and I thought that was fatherly love. How pathetic I was. Throughout all this time, I accepted the crumbs of attention they threw me. A Sunday lunch sometimes if they had nothing better to do. A quick phone call when they needed something. I was useful, so I existed. But at the end of November this year, things changed. I was at their house helping to change the lock on the front door, a lock that I paid for in a house that I helped buy, when Sarah dropped the bomb. "Dad, about Christmas, it's just going to be the nuclear family this year. You understand, right? We want something more intimate." The nuclear family. As if I weren't family. As if 7 years of paying their bills didn't give me the right to be present at Christmas. It was at that moment that something broke inside me. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. Clarity that, to them, I wasn't a father. I was a walking bank. And when you no longer need the bank, you simply close the account. "Of course," I replied, putting away my screwdriver. "I understand perfectly." And I truly did understand. I understood that the time had come for them to learn the true value of money and the true cost of ingratitude. If you've ever been in a similar situation, or know someone who supports adult children who don't appreciate the sacrifice, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because here we share real stories of people who stopped accepting disrespect within their families. Their living room was immaculate, as always. An Italian leather sofa that I had financed, a 75-inch television that I paid for with my credit card, a 3-meter Christmas tree decorated with expensive ornaments whose cost I didn't even care about. Everything perfect, everything expensive, everything paid for by me. Sarah was putting away some presents under the tree when she dropped the bomb. She didn't even have the decency to look me in the face when she said, "Dad, about Christmas this year. We decided to do something small. Just me, Marcus, and the kids. You understand, right?" I stopped what I was doing. The drill bit hung suspended in midair. My hand froze. "What do you mean, Sarah? I don't understand." "It's just that, well," she finally looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes that broke my heart. Shame. Not shame for what she was doing to me, but shame for myself. Marcus thought it was best. You know how you get during the holidays, kind of melancholy. And the children deserve a happy Christmas. Melancholy. I felt melancholy because I spent every holiday remembering Helen, the woman I loved who was no longer here. But apparently my pain disturbed their comfort. "Sarah, I am your father. Helen was your mother. It's natural that I miss her at Christmas. I know, Dad, I know. But it's just that," she sighed, as if I were the problem. "Marcus is right. We need to move on, create new traditions, and your presence kind of prevents that." And my presence is an impediment. The presence of the man who paid their bills prevented the new traditions. How convenient. I looked around the room and started doing the math in my head. The down payment on the house, $50,000 from the sale of the house where Helen and I raised Sarah. The kitchen renovation, $15,000. The back deck, $8,000. The new fence, $3,000. The furniture in the room where I was, $12,000. And where am I going to spend Christmas, Sarah? Oh, Dad. She gave that condescending smile I knew so well. You can go to Aunt Margaret's house, or you can take that trip you've always wanted to take. Take the opportunity to relax a little. Relax. Spend my money on a solo trip while they celebrate with their family at the house I helped pay for. With the money I should have been spending on myself, but which went straight into their account every month. Okay, I said, resuming drilling into the wall. I understand. But the truth is, I was starting to understand many things. I realized that for 5 years, I had confused need with love. They needed my money, so they pretended to love me. And I, desperate for family after losing Helen, accepted this charade because it was better than being alone. I realized I had raised a daughter who saw me as a resource, not as a person. That Marcus probably spent his nights laughing at how easy it was to manipulate the silly old man who paid for everything for them. And more importantly, I understood that the time had come to stop being the silly old man. Dad, are you sure everything's all right? You've been kinda quiet. Everything is perfect, darling, I replied, finishing securing the stand. In fact, I think it's going to be the best Christmas of my life. She smiled, relieved that she wouldn't have to deal with drama. She had no idea I was serious. It really would be the best Christmas of my life. Because finally, I was going to stop pretending to be happy for people who didn't want me around. I got home that night and did something I should have done years ago. I sat at the kitchen table and opened all my bank statements from the last 5 years. A stack of papers that told the story of my own stupidity, number by number, month by month. January 2019, $2,600, first mortgage payment. March 2019, $15,000, kitchen renovation because the old one didn't reflect who they were. June 2019, $3,200, central air conditioning because the old one was too noisy. The list went on, page after page. 5 years of automatic transfers, cashed checks, maxed out credit cards. All to support the lifestyle of people who now told me that my presence hindered new traditions. I grabbed the calculator and started adding it up. The total made me feel physically ill. $187,400. $187,400. More money than Helen and I had saved during 15 years of marriage. More than I earned in 3 years of work. $187,400 that could have bought me a house. That could have secured my retirement. That could have given me financial security. Instead, it had become a house where I wasn't welcome at Christmas. But what angered me most wasn't the numbers. It was remembering every time I had deprived myself of something to help them. The winter coat I didn't buy because I had to pay for my grandchildren's private school. The vacation I canceled because they were strapped for cash at the end of the year. The dental treatment I postponed because Sarah needed money for an emergency that I later discovered was a trip to Cabo. I remembered all the times I arrived at their house and Marcus was playing video games in the middle of the afternoon, while I worked 10 hours a day to support his easy life. All the times Sarah posted photos on Facebook of expensive restaurants, trips, shopping, while I ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch to save money. They lived like kings with my money, and I lived like a commoner just to support their kingdom. I grabbed my phone and went to Sarah's Instagram. Yesterday's post. A photo of her and Marcus at a fancy restaurant. Dishes that cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. Caption: Date night. Life is good. Life is good. Life is good when you have an idiot dad paying all the bills. I kept scrolling. Photos of the new house all decorated for Christmas. A 3-meter tree, expensive garlands, A table set for a party I wasn't invited to. Comments from friends praising how she had good taste and knew how to live well. Good taste with my money. I lived well with my own sweat. The last photo broke my heart. My grandchildren. 8-year-old Tommy and 6-year-old Lisa, in expensive Christmas pajamas, smiling under the tree. Children I loved more than life itself, whom I wouldn't be able to see at Christmas, because apparently my sadness over their grandmother's death spoiled the spirit. It was at that moment that I made the decision. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. It was about restoring balance. If they didn't want me as family, then I was going to stop treating them as family. I grabbed my laptop and logged into online banking. 5 years of automatic transfers staring back at me. A red button labeled Cancel. I pressed it. The first step of my new life had just begun. The next day, I needed to better understand what was really going on. Sarah hadn't excluded me from Christmas because I was feeling melancholy. There was something behind it, and I was going to find out what. I called my sister Margaret, who had always been closer to Sarah than I'd imagined. Margaret didn't mince words, so if anyone was going to give me the unvarnished truth, it would be her. "Rob, I was expecting that call," she said as soon as she answered. "What do you mean by that, Maggie?" "Sarah called me yesterday. She said you acted strange when she explained about Christmas, that you kind of pressured to be invited." "Did I push?" I barely reacted. "Maggie, she told me I couldn't go because my presence disrupts their new traditions, that I get too melancholic." Silence on the other end of the line. Then, a long sigh. "Rob, sit down because I'm going to tell you the truth. Sarah called me last week asking for advice. Apparently Marcus has some new friends from work, people with money, and they want to impress. This Christmas is going to be like a party to show how they made it." My stomach sank, and I'm not cut out for this party. "You're a bricklayer, Rob. You work with your hands. You drive an old pickup truck. You buy clothes at Walmart." Margaret said this affectionately, but the words cut off. "For Marcus, you don't represent well the image they want to project to their new friends." The truth hurt more than I expected. For 5 years, I had paid for them to live beyond their means. And now, when the time came for them to show off their success to others, I was a disgrace that needed to be hidden. "Maggie, they know I pay for their house, right? Sarah told Marcus that you help with some expenses, but that you're financially okay now." "I help with some expenses. I was paying the entire damn mortgage, plus all the renovations, plus the car, plus the boys' school. But for her, that was helping with some expenses. And there's more, Rob. Sarah mentioned that you're going to organize the finances after Christmas. That it's time for you to reduce the support because they want to be more independent." Independent. After 5 years of sucking at my teat, they wanted to be independent, but only after I was no longer useful to them. "Rob, are you there?" "I'm here, Maggie. Just processing." "Look, I think you should talk to them. Explain how you feel. Maybe—" "No," I interrupted. "I'm not going to explain anything. If they want to be independent, they'll have the chance." I hung up the phone and stood looking out the kitchen window. My neighbors were decorating their houses for Christmas. Normal families, doing normal things, including grandparents participating in the celebrations. I picked up my phone again and called the bank. "Hello, I would like to cancel an automatic transfer." The customer service representative was very efficient. In 5 minutes, the $2,600 monthly debit from my account every first of the month was canceled. 5 years of financial drain stopped with a 5-minute phone call. Then I called the credit card company. "I would like to cancel my daughter's additional card." 5 more minutes. Another cut. Sarah wouldn't be able to use my card to pay for her purchases anymore. Finally, I called the boys' school. "Hello, I'm Robert Miller, responsible for paying the tuition for my grandchildren, Tommy and Lisa Harrison. Starting in January, the financial responsibility will be transferred to their parents. The secretary was confused, but she wrote everything down. In less than half an hour, I had cut over $4,000 a month from my account. Money that I was going to be able to spend on myself for the first time in 5 years. If they wanted to exclude me from the family out of shame, they would have to learn to live without the family money as well. And that was just the beginning. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I cooked a real dinner just for myself. Not a sandwich gulped down before rushing off to deal with Sarah's problem, but a real dinner. Grilled steak, baked potatoes, salad, an ice-cold beer, music that I wanted to listen to. For the first time in 5 years, my money had stayed in my account on the first of the month. While I ate, I kept thinking about how I had gotten to this point. Helen always said I was too soft-hearted with Sarah. "Rob, you're going to ruin that girl if you don't set boundaries," she'd say. And as always, Helen was right. After she died, Sarah became my only family. I would have done anything to keep my daughter close, so I wouldn't be completely alone in the world. And she knew that. She exploited it. But now the cards were on the table. If I was a disgrace that needed to be hidden, then I was going to hide for real. Along with my money. My phone rang. Sarah. "Hi, Dad. How are you?" "I'm fine, dear." "And you?" "I'm great. Look, I wanted to thank you for understanding about Christmas. It means a lot to me that you're so mature." Maduro. As if wanting to spend Christmas with family were immature. "Of course, Sarah. That's what family is all about, right? Understanding each other's boundaries." "Exactly. You've always been so understanding." "Oh, and Dad, one more thing. Marcus said the mortgage payment didn't come through today. Could you check?" There it was. 3 hours after canceling the payment, she was already charging again. "Ah, yes, I canceled the automatic transfer today." Silence. A silence so long that for a second I thought the call had dropped. "Did you cancel?" "I canceled. I thought a lot about what you said about creating new traditions, about moving forward. And you're right. It's time for all of us to be more independent." "Dad, I don't understand. What does one thing have to do with the other?" "It all makes sense, darling. If you want to be a nuclear independent family, then you need to learn to be financially independent too." "But Dad, you can't just... We have commitments. We have bills to pay. And I'm sure you'll figure it out. Marcus has a good job. You can go back to work. You'll be fine." "Go back to work?" "Dad, I haven't worked in 5 years. The children need me at home. So maybe it's time to make some choices. Just like I had to." Another silence. When Sarah spoke again, her voice was different. Higher pitched, almost hysterical. "Dad, you can't do this. We depend on this help. You know that." Depend. Interesting word, Sarah. Because when someone depends on you, you usually include that person in important things, like family Christmas. "Dad, please, let's talk in person. I think there's been a misunderstanding." "There was no misunderstanding at all, darling. You were very clear. I'm not welcome at Christmas because I need to move on and stop being melancholic. So I moved on. From the bank that supports you." "Good. Sarah, I'm going to hang up now. I have a dinner to finish, a dinner that I paid for, at my table in my house, where I am welcome." I hung up the phone and went back to my steak. It was still hot. For 5 years I had confused being used with being loved. For 5 years I had allowed the fear of loneliness to transform me into a man who accepted crumbs from his own daughter. But the loneliness I felt now was different. It was the loneliness of someone who had made a difficult but right decision. It was the loneliness of dignity regained. The phone rang again. Sarah. Then Marcus. Then Sarah again. I unplugged the phone and finished my dinner in peace. 3 days passed. 3 days of ringing phones, text messages, emails. Their desperation grew with each passing hour. But I didn't answer anything. I was too busy figuring out what it was like to have money left over at the end of the month. On Thursday, Sarah showed up at my door. unannounced as she always did when she needed something urgently. The difference was that this time, instead of entering like the lady of the house, she stood on the porch waiting for me to invite her in. "Hi, Dad." "Sarah, what do you want?" She seemed shocked by my coldness. She wasn't used to me not melting in her presence. "Dad, we need to talk. You can't just cut off our aid like that out of the blue. That's not fair." "Come in," I said, making room. She came in and looked around my living room as if she'd never been there before. Maybe because in 5 years, she'd never really paid attention to the simple house I lived in while paying for her mansion. "Dad, what happened to you? You're not like this." "What do you mean, Sarah?" "Cruel, vengeful. You were always generous, always helped us when we needed it." "And when was the last time you really needed my help?" I asked. "Not when you wanted my help. When you needed it." She was left speechless. "Because I remember the last time you really needed me. It was in 2019 when Marcus lost his job. You were desperate. I paid for everything for 3 months until he found another job." "Exactly. You saved us." "And after he got the new job, how long did it take for you to ask me to keep helping? 2 weeks, Sarah. 2 weeks." She looked away. "Since then, I've been paying for your house for 5 years. Marcus has a good salary, you could work, but you chose to live at my expense because it was more convenient." "That's not how it works, Dad." "So how is that? Explain to me how a family that earns $8,000 a month can't afford a mortgage of $2,600. We have other expenses." "What expenses, Sarah? Dinners at restaurants that cost $100 a person, designer clothes, private school when there are good public schools? Those kinds of expenses?" Her face turned red. "We want to give our children the best." "With my money. You want to give the best to your children with money that I should be using to have a better life." "Dad, please." "Sarah, sit down because I'm going to tell you the truth. 3 days ago, for the first time in 5 years, I bought prime cuts of meat at the supermarket. 3 days ago, I discovered what it's like to have money to spare. 3 days ago, I understood what you felt for 5 years at my expense." Tears began to stream down her face. But they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of despair, because the source of easy money had dried up. "And worst of all," I continued, "you excluded me from Christmas because I'm an embarrassment to the lifestyle I've financed. You humiliated me with my own money. Dad, that's not what happened." "That's exactly it, Sarah. And now you want me to start paying your bills again after discarding me like an old rag." She stood up and wiped her face. "Dad, if you don't come back with help, we're going to lose our house." I looked into her eyes. The same eyes as Helen's, but without the kindness that Helen had. "Then you will learn to live within your means, like adults do. You're going to regret this," she said, the mask of the caring daughter finally slipping. "You're going to be alone. You'll never see your grandchildren again." And there was the real Sarah. Not the loving daughter who needed help. The manipulative woman who used my grandchildren as weapons when the money stopped flowing. "Maybe," I replied, "but at least I'll have my dignity." She stormed out, slamming the door. 15 minutes later, Marcus was on my balcony. Heavy artillery had arrived. Marcus didn't even bother to be polite. He stormed into my house like a hurricane, pointing his finger in my face before I'd even closed the door. "What the hell do you think you're doing, Robert?" "Good afternoon to you too, Marcus. Don't be sarcastic with me. Sarah is at home crying because of you. The children are asking why Grandpa is being cruel to Mom." "Are the children asking this, or are you putting these words in their mouths? Do you know what you just did? You just destroyed our financial stability. We have obligations." I sat down in my armchair and faced him. "What obligations, Marcus?" "The house, the car, the children's school. Obligations that you assumed, not me. But you always paid. And that was my mistake. I raised 2 adults addicted to easy money." Marcus started pacing back and forth in my office, gesturing wildly. Robert, you don't understand. I have a position to maintain. I work for a reputable company. My colleagues know where I live, what school my children attend. I can't simply— You can't what? Live within your means. It's more complicated than that. Explain it to me then. Explain to me how a guy who earns $8,000 a month can't afford a house that costs $2,600. Silence. Because the truth is, they could afford it. They just didn't want to give up their high standard of living. Marcus, you earn $8,000 a month. After paying the mortgage, you have $5,400 left. A family of 4 can live comfortably on that money. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about, because I live on $3,000 a month. And when I have $500 left at the end of the month, I feel rich. You don't have children to support. No, Marcus. I have a daughter and a son-in-law whom I have supported for 5 years. 2 perfectly capable adults who chose to be supported instead of supporting themselves. Marcus stopped walking and stared at me. Robert, you're making a huge mistake. Sarah is your only family. We are your only family. Do you really want to be alone because of money? Because of money? I laughed. Marcus, this was never about money. It was about respect. About being treated like family instead of being treated like a bank. Like this. What do you mean? You excluded me from Christmas because I don't fit the image you want to project to your new friends? Because a widowed bricklayer who gets sad remembering his dead wife ruins your celebration? Marcus turned pale. He didn't know I had discovered the truth. Sarah told you, right? That you need to impress your new friends. That I don't fit the lifestyle you want to show off. Robert, that's the kind of lifestyle I pay for, Marcus. I'm not cut out for parties, but my money is enough to pay for the party. That's not what she meant. That's exactly it. And you know what the funniest part is? After 5 years of treating me like an ATM, you think you still have a right to my money. Marcus changed tactics. He sat in front of me, trying to appear calm. Robert, look. Maybe we overdid it about Christmas. Maybe we could rethink it. No. How could it be no? There's nothing to rethink. You've shown me what you really think of me, and I've learned my lesson. What lesson? I got up and opened the door. That dignity is priceless, and that a real family doesn't exclude you when you're no longer useful to them. Marcus went out, but turned around before crossing the gate. You'll regret this, Robert. You'll see. I closed the door and poured myself a glass of whiskey. The good kind, not the cheap stuff I used to buy because all my money was going to their house. For 5 years, I had bought my daughter's love. And now that I've stopped paying, I've discovered it was never love. It was just a business transaction, where I was the only one who didn't understand the terms of the contract. But now I understood everything. The next few days were a masterclass in emotional manipulation. Sarah had mobilized every blackmail weapon a daughter can use against a father, and she was an expert at it. First came the grandchildren. Tommy called me crying. Grandpa, why are you fighting with Mom? She said you don't want to be our grandpa anymore. My heart broke. Sarah was using the children as soldiers in a war she herself had started. Tommy, Grandpa isn't mad at you. Grandpa loves you more than anything in the world. So why don't you want to help us anymore? Mom said that now we're going to have to leave our house because you don't want to help us anymore. To put it into the head of an 8-year-old child that her grandfather is responsible for them losing their house. That was low, even for Sarah. Tommy, listen to Grandpa. Adults need to pay their own bills. Mom and Dad have jobs and can pay for your house. But why can't you help more? Don't you love us? And there was the question Sarah had planted in his mind. If I loved, I would pay. Love. Money. Tommy, love isn't about money. Love is about being present, about caring, about wanting the best for the person. And sometimes the best thing is to let people learn to take care of themselves. After hanging up, I cried. For the first time in months, I cried. Not from sadness, but from anger. Anger at having allowed it to get to this point. anger at having let my daughter become the kind of person who uses children as emotional weapons. The next day it was Lisa's turn, 5 years old, crying on the phone. "Grandpa, don't you love me anymore? Mom said you don't want to buy us presents anymore." More poison being sown. Sarah was systematically destroying my relationship with my grandchildren to force me to start paying the bills again. "Princess, Grandpa loves you more than anything, but presents aren't the important part. The important part is being together, playing, reading stories. But you're not coming here anymore. Because Mom and Dad said Grandpa can't come for Christmas. Remember?" Silence. A 5-year-old child processing that her parents were lying to her. After the children came the direct attacks. Sarah showed up at my door again, but this time she brought reinforcements. Her sister Michelle, who lived in another state, and only showed up when she wanted something. "Dad, Michelle came here to talk to you. She's worried." Michelle, who hadn't spoken to me in 2 years, was suddenly worried. "Hi, Dad. Sarah told me what's going on. I think you need professional help." Professional help. That's how they were going to play now. "Michelle, it's so good to see you too. How's Brian? Does he still owe me the $3,000 I lent you 2 years ago?" Her face turned red. "Dad, this has nothing to do with it. It all makes sense. You only remember I exist when you need money. And when I stop giving money, suddenly I need professional help." Sarah tried to take control. "Dad, you're acting irrationally, cutting off our aid out of the blue, without talking, without thinking about the consequences." "Consequences for whom, Sarah? For you who will have to learn to live within your means? Or for me, who will finally be able to have a decent retirement? You're being selfish." "Selfish?" I laughed. "Sarah, in 5 years, how many times have you asked me if I was doing well financially? How many times have you worried about whether I had enough money after paying your bills?" Silence. The answer is 0. 0 times. Because for you, I am an inexhaustible resource, an ATM that never runs out of money. Michelle tried a different approach. "Dad, think about the grandchildren. They will suffer because of your decision. The grandchildren will suffer because their parents will have to make adult choices for the first time in 5 years. Maybe they'll have to change schools. Maybe they'll have to move to a smaller house. But you know what? That's normal life. Most families make these choices every day. But they don't have to go through that if you simply... What if I just keep being the idiot who supports everyone else without even getting an invitation to Christmas dinner? No, Michelle. That era is over." They were defeated. But I knew that was just the beginning. When emotional blackmail doesn't work, desperate people resort to dirtier tactics. And I was right. A week later, my neighbor Rose showed up at my door with a worried expression. "Robert, I need to tell you something. Sarah was here today." My stomach sank. What did she want? She was, how to put this, asking about your recent behavior. Saying that the family is worried about you, that you've been acting strangely, doing impulsive things. What kind of impulsive things? Cutting off family financial support for no reason, refusing medical help, isolating yourself. Rose looked at me kindly. "Robert, you know I've known you for 15 years. You don't seem sick or confused to me at all." "Thank you, Rose. I'm not sick. I'm just setting boundaries that I should have set a long time ago." That's what I imagined. But Robert, she didn't just go to my house. She went to several houses in the neighborhood. The truth hit me like a punch. Sarah was running a smear campaign. She was planting the idea that I was mentally unstable to justify losing access to my money. What exactly did she say? That you may be suffering from early onset dementia. That sudden changes in behavior are a sign. That your family is trying to help, but you are resisting. Sarah was building a case. If she could convince enough people that I was mentally incompetent, she might try to get some kind of conservatorship or legal intervention. "Rose, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. I told her everything. Christmas, the years of financial support, the exclusion, the decision to stop. Rose listened, nodding her head. Robert, this isn't dementia. This is a person tired of being exploited. Can you spread this information around the neighborhood? What really happened? Of course I can. And look, a lot of people were already finding it strange. Sarah showed up here wearing designer clothes, driving an expensive car, saying she was worried about money. It didn't make sense. That afternoon, I called my doctor, Dr. Patricia Williams, who had been treating me for 10 years. Dr. Williams, I need to have some tests done. Are you feeling anything, Robert? No, doctor. But my family is spreading rumors that I might have dementia because I made a financial decision they didn't like. I want medical documentation proving that I am mentally competent. She was silent for a moment. Robert, this is serious. Do you want to have a full neuropsychological evaluation? Yes. And I want it on record that I requested this of my own free will because my family is questioning my mental capacity after I stopped giving them money. A week later, I had an 8-page medical report attesting to my full mental capacity. Cognitive exam, memory assessment, decision-making test, everything perfect. But Sarah's campaign was working. Acquaintances began greeting me with that special tone people use with the sick. How are you feeling, Robert? With emphasis on feeling, as if I were about to explode at any moment. At the supermarket, I ran into Janet, who attended the same church as Sarah. Robert, Sarah told me you're going through a difficult time. It's good that you left the house. Doing normal activities is important to keep your mind active. Keeping my mind active. Like I'm a senile old man buying milk. Janet, my mind is perfectly sharp. Sharp enough to realize I was being financially exploited and to decide that it was going to stop. Her face changed. Oh, Sarah doesn't mention many things. Like the fact that I paid for her house for 5 years and she thanked me by excluding me from the family Christmas. I spread my version of the story whenever possible. Not to get revenge, but to protect myself. Because I knew Sarah was building something, and I needed to be prepared. What I didn't know was how low she was willing to go. In January, when the first bills started arriving and the reality of financial independence hit Sarah hard, things escalated quickly. First came the email. A formal email, as if I were just any creditor. Dad, after reviewing our financial situation with a lawyer, we were informed that you have a moral and legal obligation to continue the financial support you have established as standard over the past 5 years. Your sudden withdrawal of this support constitutes family abandonment and may have legal consequences. Please resume payments by the end of this week to avoid legal action. Legal obligation. The girl had gone to find a lawyer. I immediately called my own lawyer, Mike Rodriguez, who had known me for 20 years. Mike, my daughter is threatening to sue me because I stopped paying her bills. Robert, do you have any signed documents? Any loan agreement? Anything that establishes a legal obligation? Nothing. It was all informal, voluntary transfers. So she has no case at all. There is no law that obligates parents to support adult children indefinitely. But can she try? You can try anything. But you'll lose and still have to pay the court costs. I sent a simple reply. Sarah, find a better lawyer. This one is giving you bad advice. I have no legal obligation to support capable adults. 2 weeks later, my daughter Michelle showed up at my door crying. Dad, you need to help Sarah. They've received an eviction notice. They're going to lose their house. And? What? Your grandchildren will be left on the street. My grandchildren are going to move into a house that their parents can afford, like millions of families do every day. Dad, be reasonable. She's your daughter. She's your family. Michelle, answer me this. When was the last time Sarah asked how I was doing? When was the last time she worried about my financial situation? This is different. Is it different because I was the one paying? Do you know what the difference is, Michelle? Now they're going to learn the value of money. They're going to learn to make choices. They're going to learn to live like adults. What if they fail? What if something happens to the children? If something happens to the children due to parental negligence, I will fight for custody. But I'm not going back to supporting two lazy adults just because they threaten the children's well-being. Michelle left crying. An hour later, my phone rang. Sarah. Dad, you won. Are you happy now? What are you talking about? We're going to have to sell the house. We're going to have to take the children out of school. We're going to have to move to a small apartment. You've managed to destroy our lives. Sarah, you earn $8,000 a month. You won't go hungry. $8,000 is nothing these days. Sarah, I live on $3,000 a month. $8,000 is a fortune. You don't have children to raise. No, I have a grown daughter and a grown son-in-law whom I raised for 5 years. And look how you thanked me. Dad, please, one last time. Lend me money to pay off the house. I'll sign a document, set a deadline to pay. No. Good. Sarah, how many last times have I heard? How many promises of payment have I believed? The answer is no. So you chose to be alone. I hope you'll be happy in your empty house while your grandchildren grow up without ever knowing their grandfather. If that's the choice you make, I'll respect it. But I won't be blackmailed. She hung up. 3 days later, I received a call I wasn't expecting. Tommy, my grandson. Grandpa, Mom said we can stay at your house. What do you mean, Tommy? She said that if you want us to live in a small house, we can come live with you. Then you'll see how difficult it is to support a family. Sarah was trying to force me to accept that they would move into my house. The final blow. Tommy, put Mommy on the phone. When Sarah answered, my voice was colder than I had ever heard myself. Sarah, if you show up at my house with those children, I'm going to call the police for trespassing. Dad, you wouldn't do that. I would, and I will. You made your choice when you excluded me from the family. Now live with the consequences. The war had officially begun. That night, an idea occurred to me. In 5 years of supporting them, I had never really paid attention to Sarah's social media. I always thought it was a waste of time. But now, curious about how she was publicly dealing with the financial crisis, I decided to take a look. What I found filled me with a rage I didn't know I was still capable of feeling. Sarah's Instagram, 847 followers. Almost daily posts over the last 5 years showing a life of pure ostentation. Dinner at an expensive restaurant. Date night. We know how to live. Decorated house. Our beautiful home, blessed to live this life. Trip to Cabo. Paradise. Life is too short not to enjoy it. Every post was a lie. Every photo was bought with my money. And worse, she never, not once in 5 years, mentioned my help. To her followers, they were a successful couple living the American dream. Role a te posts me recentes. Decembro. Getting ready for the best Christmas ever. Our home is finally ready to host. Janeiro. New year, new challenges, but we're strong together. Fevereiro. Sometimes life tests us, but family always finds a way. Family always finds a way. She was literally using our fight to gain sympathy online without explaining the real context. But it was on her Facebook page that I found the gold. A post from 3 days ago. Hey friends, going through a tough time. Dad is having some health issues, won't go into details for privacy, and had to stop helping us financially. We're looking into downsizing and making some changes. If anyone knows of good, affordable housing or job opportunities, please message me. Thanks for all the love and support. Health issues. She was telling her friends that I had health problems. That's why she had stopped helping. 142 comments. I read them all. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Let me know if you need anything. Your dad is lucky to have such a caring daughter. Family always comes first. You're doing the right thing. My prayers for your father's health. She was being treated like a devoted daughter caring for her ailing father, when in reality she was a parasite who had lost her source of easy money I took screenshots of everything, every false post, every comment, every like, because an idea was forming in my head. If Sarah wanted to play the social media game, I was going to show her how to play it right. I created a Facebook account. Robert Miller, The Truth. First post. Hi everyone. I'm the sick dad you've probably heard about. I'm not sick. I'm perfectly healthy. I have doctor's certificates if anyone wants to see them. What happened was simple. After 5 years of paying $2,600 a month for my daughter's mortgage, plus renovations, cars, grandchildren's school, and everything else totaling over $180,000, she excluded me from the family Christmas because I didn't fit the image she wanted to project to her new friends. So I decided that if I wasn't family enough to be included in Christmas, I also wasn't a bank enough to keep paying for their luxurious lifestyle. Now she's claiming I have health problems to explain why I stopped helping. The only illness I had was being too stupid to realize I was being used. I've attached screenshots of her posts, bank statements, with personal information redacted, and the medical certificate. Within 2 hours, the post had 67 shares and 89 comments. The truth was spreading. The phone rang. Sarah. Dad, what did you do? Same as you, darling. I told my side of the story on social media. You are publicly humiliating me. Just like you did to me when you made up that I have health problems. Dad, delete this post now. No, I'm going to sue you. For telling the truth? Good luck. You are destroying my reputation. Sarah, I am restoring my reputation. You destroyed yours when you decided to lie about my mental health. She hung up. An hour later, all her Facebook posts had been deleted. Too late. The internet is forever, and I had screenshots of everything. 2 days later, I received a private message on Facebook from a woman I didn't know. Mr. Miller, my name is Jennifer. I work with Sarah. She spent the last month telling everyone in the office that you have Alzheimer's and that she's taking care of you. She's even being considered for a promotion because the boss thinks she's an exemplary daughter dealing with a sick father. I thought you should know. Sarah was using my supposed illness to get a promotion at work. The war was far from over. In fact, it was only just beginning. With the truth starting to circulate, my strategy changed. It was no longer about defending myself. It was about fully exposing the manipulation that had lasted 5 years. I created a second post on Facebook, this time in more detail. For those following my story, I discovered today that my daughter is telling her coworkers that I have Alzheimer's and that she is my caregiver. Gosh, she's even being considered for a promotion for being an exemplary daughter. I would like to clarify some facts with documentation. Medical certificate from January 2024, mentally competent. Bank statements 2019-2024, $187,400 paid to family screenshot of the conversation where she says I don't fit with her Christmas plans. Photos of the things I bought for them, house, cars, furniture. This isn't about money. It's about a daughter who financially exploited me for 5 years and is now lying about my mental health to justify losing access to her bank account. The post went viral, 247 shares in 6 hours, comments numbered in the hundreds. But most importantly, people who knew Sarah started coming out of hiding. A former colleague of hers commented, Robert, I worked with Sarah from 2018 to 2020. She always talked about the good life they led, the expensive restaurants, the trips. She never mentioned help from her family. She always implied that they were successful through their own merit. A neighbor said, I always found it strange how a young family could afford that house. Sarah once told me that you helped out sometimes, but judging by the numbers here, you practically supported them. A friend of Marcus's. Marcus always spoke as if he were the one supporting the family. He even once criticized parents who spoil adult children. The hypocrisy is astounding. But the comment that struck me the most came from a woman named Angela. Mr. Miller, I went through the same situation with my son. 15 years supporting him and the family. When I stopped, he He also made up that I was sick. This manipulation is more common than we imagine. You made the right decision. This made me realize that our story wasn't unique. There were thousands of parents being financially exploited by their adult children, and when they set boundaries, they were portrayed as mentally unstable. I decided to create a Facebook group, Parents Who Stopped Supporting Their Adult Children. Within a week, it had 300 members. Similar stories appeared daily, but Sarah wasn't standing still. She fought back by creating her own post. For anyone seeing these posts about me, my father has been going through serious emotional problems since my mother's death 7 years ago. Our payments weren't help. They were part of an arrangement where he invested in our home as a way to ensure he would always have a place to live when needed. Now he's distorting everything because he's angry that we established healthy boundaries for Christmas. I'm considering legal action for defamation. Clever. She was turning my payments into investments and my skipping Christmas into healthy limits. But I was prepared. Third post, with audio and documents. My daughter is now saying that my payments were an investment and that I would always have a place in the house when I needed it. Attached here, audio of the conversation where she says I can't spend Christmas with her because I don't fit in with her family. Transfer history showing that the transfers were for help, not investment. Messages from her over the last 5 years asking for emergency loans, zero investment, or company documents. If it were an investment, where are the contracts? If I had a right to the house, why would she forbid me from using it? The truth is, she's desperate because her source of easy money has run out. The audio was devastating. Her voice clearly saying, "Dad, you understand that your habits don't fit the kind of party we want to have, right? We want polite, classy people." The post was shared 400 times. Her narrative crumbled within hours, but the best was yet to come. I received a message from Marcus. "Robert, stop this online nonsense. You're destroying our family. Sarah is having panic attacks because of the public humiliation. Be a man and resolve this in private." I replied. "Marcus, when you excluded me from Christmas, you weren't concerned about my embarrassment. When Sarah made up that I had Alzheimer's, you didn't think about my humiliation. Now that the truth is out in the open, you want privacy? Too late." The internet had become my court, and the jury was on my side. March arrived, bringing the real consequences of forced financial independence. Sarah and Marcus finally understood that I wasn't going back down, and the reality of the numbers began to set in. The first crack in the perfect facade was the boys' school. Tommy called me crying. "Grandpa, the principal said today that Lisa and I will have to change schools." Mom couldn't afford it. My heart ached. Not for the parents, but for the children who were innocent victims of this war. "Tommy, the new school will be good too. Sometimes change is a good thing. But I don't want to leave school. My friends are here. Why can't you help more?" The question that Sarah had planted in the mind of an 8-year-old child. "Tommy, listen to Grandpa. Mom and Dad earn enough money to take good care of you. They're just going to have to make different choices now." But the truth is, it hurt. Not because I was wrong, but because I was seeing the price innocent children pay when adults live beyond their means. A week later, the house was put up for sale. I saw the post on the realtor's Facebook page. "Beautiful family home. Motivated sellers." Motivated sellers. Desperate to sell quickly. Sarah called me one last time, her voice pleading. "Dad, the house is going to be sold for less than it's worth because it needs to be quick. We're going to lose a lot of money. If you lend us just enough to pay it off, we can renegotiate." "Sarah, how many times do I have to say no before you understand?" "Father, I'm begging you. As your daughter, I'm begging you. You should have thought about that before excluding me from Christmas." "Dad, I admit we were wrong about Christmas. We can talk. We can include you. Now that they need money, they want to include me? How convenient." She started to cry. "Dad, I don't know what to do anymore. Marcus is depressed. The children are confused. I'm desperate. For the first time in months, I felt a pang of pity, but it was rational pity, not emotional pity. Sarah, you're going to be okay. You're young, healthy, and intelligent. You'll learn to live within your means. What if we don't succeed? They will succeed, because they will have no choice. The house was sold in April for $40,000 less than it was worth. They moved to a 2-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. The children changed schools. Sarah went back to work part-time. And you know what? The world didn't end. Tommy adjusted to his new school. Lisa made new friends. Marcus overcame his depression when he finally understood that work was mandatory, not optional. But the most interesting thing was Sarah. When she stopped living off me, something changed in her. The air of superiority disappeared. The arrogance vanished. She became more humble. In June, she showed up at my door. Unannounced, as always. But this time it was different. "Dad, can I come in?" "He can." She sat in my room and remained silent for a long time. "Dad, I came to apologize." "For what purpose specifically?" "For everything. For using you. For excluding you from the family. For lying about your health. For turning my children against you." She took a deep breath. "For being a terrible daughter." It was the first time in 5 years that she had taken responsibility for something. "Sarah, I accept your apology." "Dad, is there any chance we can rebuild our relationship?" I looked at my daughter. She was different. Thinner, wearing simple clothes, her nails undone, lacking the arrogance that easy money had created. "It exists," I said. "But it will be a different relationship. A relationship where I am respected as a father, not used as a bank." "I understand." "And if you need financial help again, the answer will be no." "I understand." "And if you ever exclude me from something important again, I will cut off all contact permanently." "I understand." 2 months later, she invited me over for a barbecue at her new apartment. Nothing fancy, just grilled hamburgers and cheap beer. But I was included, and for the first time in 5 years, I felt like I had a real daughter. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is to stop allowing them to use you. August brought a change I wasn't expecting. Tommy called me wanting to spend the weekend with me. "Grandpa, can I sleep at your house? Mom said you can if you want." It was the first time in months that the children had come to my house. Sarah brought them on a Saturday morning, and I immediately noticed the difference in her. "Dad, they miss you. And I miss you too." "Sarah, you've always been welcome here. That was never the issue." "I know. The issue was respect." We spent the weekend doing simple things. I took the boys fishing in the lake, something I hadn't done in years, because I was always busy dealing with the family's financial problems. We watched old movies. We cooked together. "Grandpa," Tommy said as we made pancakes on Sunday, "Mom said you were mad because they didn't invite you for Christmas." "That's true, Tommy." "But now you're not angry anymore?" "I'm not angry anymore, but I still remember the lesson I learned." "What lesson?" "A real family includes everyone in the important things." Lisa, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "Grandpa, could you have come last Christmas?" "If you'd like to invite me, Princess, I'd love to." When Sarah came to pick up the children on Sunday night, she stood hesitantly at the door. "Dad, can I talk to you for a minute?" We went out into the backyard. "Dad, these past few months have been the hardest of my life, and not just because of the money." "Why then?" "Because of the shame. When the truth about our situation spread, I realized how people saw me, as an ungrateful daughter who exploited her father." "And how do you see yourself now?" "Like someone who almost lost the most important person in their life because of pride and greed." It was the first time she had used the word greed. "Sarah, you haven't lost. I'm still here. But our relationship has changed forever, hasn't it?" "It changed, and it was good that it changed. Now it's an honest relationship." "Dad, can I tell you something? Marcus and I are in therapy." That surprised me. The therapist said that you two developed an entitlement mentality, that you believed you deserved financial help without having to give anything in return. And what do you think about that? She's right. We've become so accustomed to her money that we've stopped valuing her sacrifice. I looked at my daughter. Finally, at 32, she was starting to mature. Dad, I want to pay you back. Sarah, no, Dad. I know it's a lot of money, but I want to put together a plan. Even if it takes 20 years, I want to pay you back. I don't expect you to do that. But I need to do it, for myself, to be able to look at myself in the mirror. We made a plan, $100 a month. In 150 years, she would have paid it all back. But it wasn't about the money, it was about her taking responsibility. In September, she got a full-time job. Marcus took on more responsibilities at home. The children adapted completely to their new life. And in October, something incredible happened. Sarah called me just to see how I was doing. Hi, Dad. I don't need anything. I just wanted to know how your day was. First time in 5 years. My day was good, dear. How was yours? It was hectic, but good. The kids asked if they could spend next weekend with you. Of course they can. Good. Try. Thanks. For what reason? For not giving up on me, even when I deserved for you to give up. I realized there was something I had never told her during this whole war. Sarah, my daughter, I love you. I've always loved you. That's why everything hurts so much. I love you too, Dad. And now I know the difference between loving and using someone. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is refusing to continue being used. And sometimes, losing everything is what a person needs to find themselves. And if you thought Robert's story was intense, just wait until you hear what happened to another father I know. This man discovered that his son only called him at Christmas time, always with his hand outstretched, expecting expensive gifts. Until one day he decided to give his son the gift he truly deserved. A lesson about consequences. Click on the video that's playing on the screen now. My son expected my Christmas presents but received only silence, because this story will show you that sometimes silence speaks louder than any words.